Hello again, everyone. Obie Shelton, the Executive Director of the African American Cultural Garden. This is our Sankofa series where we let you get to know people in our community who are really making a difference, have made a difference, and you get to know a little bit more about them. Today I'm sitting with the esteemed Prester Pickett. A lot of you have seen him in the community. He does a lot of things at the garden and around Cleveland. We're going to get to know him a little bit better today. Why don't you tell us what you do here at Cleveland State?
Sure, I'm recognized as Professor Pickett. I acquired the terminal degree of an M.F.A, Master of Fine Arts in Acting at Case Western Reserve University, where I was the first African American to acquire that. And actually, when I enrolled in the American Studies PhD program, Dr. Howard A. Mims, who this center is named after, came and recruited me out of that program to become his assistant here, to assist with what was then the Black Studies program and is now the Africana Studies Department. So it was exciting for me to leave that program because I was so interested in following the type of activity that Dr. Mims was doing here at Cleveland State University. And that's now 28 years ago when that occurred. So there is the advancement from my interests as a playwright, even as early as being a junior high school student into high school, and then routing into the College of Worcester, where Annetta Gomez Jefferson took me under her wing and really nurtured me and encouraged me, and eventually helped me go into the area of theater as a full-time professional.
So are you a Cleveland guy?
I am a native of Cleveland. Went to the Cleveland Public Schools my entire education up through the 12th grade, from John Adams High School again to the College of Worcester, and then eventually to Case Western Reserve University for my graduate school education in their M.F.A program and PhD program.
So Mount Pleasant, huh?
With
Well, if you went to Adams, you must have grown up in Mount Pleasant.
in Mount Pleasant area originally, but I'm a Buckeye Woodland brother.
Oh,
so I grew up
okay.
on the Buckeye, and with opportunities to advance in a community that changed from a very diverse community to a very Afrocentric community.
So that everybody kind of can connect with you. Only child, grew up with siblings, what?
I have a number of siblings. I come from a family with 4 brothers. One passed away very early, and another was killed in an accident. And now I have also an adopted brother who advances with the work as a full-time family member. And I only announce that because he's very comfortable with me sharing that, because that's part of his narrative and life experience.
So just to probe a little bit, some students and younger people might look at you, you're a professor, at CSU, and of course you were always in the head of the class, you never had any challenges in school. Is that true?
Well, I actually did not have major challenges that I recognized. Most of the challenges that I faced were economic challenges where I couldn't afford to do certain things. So with the fact that I'm comfortable now announcing that my mother was on welfare and that we advanced through having lived the experience with pink, blue, yellow money, collecting Eagle stamps to buy things for Christmas, collecting bottles to be able to advance through the experience of growing up in a low-income setting is part of the greatest challenge. And I think, too, that may have caused some other challenges. But I advanced at John Adams as class president. I had other individuals that advanced with me. Dr. Antoine Hudson, now deceased, advanced through medical school. We all went to the College of Worcester with other individuals like Dr. Diane Brown Young. She became a medical doctor, and then also Sharon Stubbs became a medical doctor. So the opportunity to say that we all left John Adams High School together, went to the College of Worcester, and then eventually ended up getting our terminal degrees from Case Western Reserve University, where we were in the Upward Bound program. And I think that is where, too, I received some great opportunities, even with my professional career getting started with the Upward Bound program.
Shout out to College of Worcester, because I know a number of lawyers, judges, all came out of there from that era, 70s, 80s.
That is the extension, Judge Solomon Oliver, the opportunity to have
Larry
so many
Jones.
others, Fernando Mack, is an attorney as well, making his name well known in the work that he does in the field. So again, great opportunities to have established connections. And that's what I try to do here at Cleveland State University. Help the students realize that your greatest resource are the other students who are studying other things than what you're studying, because you will carry your expertise. What you will need is the expertise in the other areas. So this Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center, which Spike Lee came to help dedicate to the legacy of his uncle, Howard Mims, is a space for students to come and network with each other, to come as an African American cultural center to gain confidence in who they are as African Americans, yet to realize this is a space that welcomes all of our students so that they can network globally and have the conversations that will advance them, again, in developing relationships as early as their undergraduate educations to meet other people who will do great things, and they will be able to call on them. I'm often calling on my classmates from the College of Worcester for advice in law, in medicine, as well as in other areas with education.
So you've had these two interests, that is, as far as an educator and then also as a someone who's involved in the theater, right? Can you give me a feel for how that developed?
Well, again, it is the interdisciplinary discourse with Black Studies, now Africana Studies, in the discussion that we even just had Dr. Evan Morris as our Martin Luther King speaker. Dr. Evan Morris is the first veterinarian of the state of Ohio who's African American. So his background is sort of the course that I took. I was attending the College of Worcester to become a veterinarian and was actually accepted into Tuskegee's pre-veterinarian program. And it wasn't until organic chemistry that I realized that I needed to change my path. And so I had the experience, even in the Upward Bound program, of working in pre-pharmacy and pharmacy programs at the Cleveland Clinic and at the Kenneth Clement Center, to the point that I eventually realized that I didn't want that as a career, because I knew I was a people person and I wanted to go beyond just a cubicle or an area where the drugs were kept, or the area of delivering the drugs to the different floors in the hospital. So I eventually decided that, with Annetta Gomez Jefferson helping me to realize that my chemistry labs and the time rehearsing in the theater had to eventually come to a resolve to say either I was going to do theater or I was going to do chemistry and biology. And eventually everyone came and said, follow your love. My love was theater. And with that, I united with another love, my wife, who was also someone who appreciated theater and an outstanding vocalist. And we combined our talents and eventually did a tour of Italy, and then eventually shared some tours across the nation of our presentations that were tributes to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahalia Jackson. And then my plays lifted, because I was encouraged at the College of Worcester to write plays and submit them into playwriting contests. So eventually the National Council of Black Studies, and I'm actually going to be presenting for them in their conference this year, they acknowledged my status as a playwright worth following. And that is also how I was connected with Dr. Mims, because the African American community in Cleveland was very well connected, and they knew who was educating the next generation, and they had communications with Annetta Gomez Jefferson, who was able to speak up for me and give a very strong recommendation that landed me this position 28 years ago.
See, that name, Annetta Gomez Jefferson, a lot of people don't know that name because maybe she's not in the general history books, but very influential in your life. And to me, that's part of Black history, huh?
Yes, also with the fact that she's very well known as an author. She did the biography of her father, Bishop Gomez Jefferson of the St. James AME Church, as well as some of the other individuals in her family that had careers as clergy. So with that, I was able to be inspired by her, again, encouraged to enter contests. The first contest I received was a biographical drama that captured the experience of my mother who was an individual who some would say a mulatto, but we know that that's not a best term to describe those who have mixed lineages. Her father was the sheriff of Union Springs, Alabama. So I covered the story of the mixed relationship that advanced to her coming to Cleveland and why she came to Cleveland to escape much of the racism and challenges in the area of Alabama that she was in. So with that, that then allowed me to pay attention to her education, where she attended Alabama State, and then eventually cover a little bit more in some projected plays that I want to write about her life, because that first play talked about her migration from the South to Cleveland, Ohio, and why.
Now, I've seen you in a lot of settings where you will recount really dramatic Black history, whether it's February or not.
Yes.
Do you think that's very important? And maybe this is a better question. Do you find the appetite for Black history increasing, or are you often disappointed by the lack of appetite for it?
Well, one, it's me knowing that straight in front of me is a portrait of Dr. Howard A. Mims, who groomed me. He became my next mentor after Annetta Gomez Jefferson. And he would talk about the challenge that we had in educating a next generation about our culture and history, to establish the interest in that appreciation that could advance it, and how challenging it was to compete with Black popular culture, because Black popular culture was not necessarily being guided by African Americans or individuals with great interest in the direction for our people, in my opinion, as well as what I heard from Dr. Mims. So having the resources to compete with the technology and the interest that young people were gaining in their telephones and social media was a little bit challenging for us. I was an artistic person. That's why I appreciate our student staff here, and I appreciate my sons, because they're always educating me as a younger generation about the technology and the use of the electronic devices to acquire information instantly, to be able to apply information instantly. So the competition in terms of trying to get their attention after something else drew them in, and drew them into what I acknowledge as some very negative information that started making them want to emulate the negative behavior and to glamorize the negative behavior to the point that it shook up our community. So the extra work that we had to do in terms of trying to keep Black culture sustained is something that I was interested in doing here at Cleveland State University, and now carrying the 28 years going into the 30-year period, I'm able to say I've acknowledged and documented so much of what we've tried to do. And we have had success, but we have to also look at it from the perspective of being beyond just what's happening at Cleveland State University. It's what's happening in the city of Cleveland. It's what's happening across the nation. It's what's happening in the world, for us to be able to say we can empower ourselves, we can find the agency as a community and network with others who are experiencing similar things. There are other cultures that have histories that we can grow from, and we can share our histories with them. So my interest in terms of trying to blend theater as an educational tool is something that I was able to do here at Cleveland State University. Some of our largest audiences, where we literally packed out auditoriums and regularly had people looking to come down to Cleveland State University to attend an event, a celebration, is because Dr. Mims considered us a world-class venture. And Dr. Mims also was an individual who advanced with our Jazz Heritage Orchestra, and the conversations with Dennis Reynolds as the artistic director of that entity developed greater interest. However, the challenge is that jazz music at that time had been distanced from the hip hop generation, and they appreciated it, occasionally would attend out of curiosity or an assignment, but there were so many other students for us to reach. So I ventured into hip operas and started the work with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to help bring to Cleveland State University a national, international conference on hip hop, which was then followed that next year by a national conference with the Association of Black Culture Centers coming to do a conference on Black popular culture. So we developed some momentum, but there was the challenge of then keeping that moving forward, and then came COVID. So that's probably what I'm focusing on now in giving a presentation with the National Council of Black Studies, what I've seen happen that detracted from the celebration of Black culture before COVID, and then to be hit by COVID is what I'm wanting to sort of sit back and say, oh, okay, y'all, this is what happened to us.
Since you mentioned that, has your perspective on hip hop evolved over the years?
Oh, definitely. We had a chance to give proposals to try to get even hip hop courses established here. At sometimes it was challenging for me to argue. The opportunity came with us at least advancing a hip hop workshop that was regularly held here, that has sustained itself and keeps a generation of individuals who at that time were developing interest in culture. However, that generation, my generation of hip hop artists, are now aging. So what is next? And I'm trying to figure out, what do we call this next generation of artists? Can we continue to sustain them as hip hop artists, or are they something else? Are they something new for us to pay attention to and to study how they are navigating the institutions of higher learning, how they are navigating the absence of opportunities at institutions of higher learning to develop their own crafts and skills, and eventually try to study that so that we can become a better institution to recruit them and court them into the studies here at Cleveland State.
You're used to talking to young people here. If someone happens to stumble on this, I don't know, what would you say to them in terms of, I don't know, Black history, in terms of maybe they're figuring out what they want to do?
Well, I'd say Black history is American history, and it's very wealthy. The opportunity to say that if you land an awareness and the pride in who you are, and an understanding of where your people came from and where they are, you can project where you want to be in the next movement for our people. Or if you are from another culture, how you can connect with others who want to advance some very challenging situations. We as a people, and I say that because Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. referred to us as a people. And since the 1960s, since his assassination in 1968, I have not seen anything to distance us from being a people. But we are a people with a great history in our African civilizations and our African roots, but also a great people because of what we were able to endure in these United States of America to come to where we are in these United States of America, and then to always have groups of our people in education sharing how great this country was, how great this country is, but yet how great this country could be.
Now, you know, we're talking to you I'm talking to you as the Executive Director of the African American Cultural Garden, and you have partnered with us, several times in our efforts there. We certainly think that it's important to push to get that monument completed and to pull the community together. Can you share your perspective on that?
Well, the dream of that piece that started with the vision of the architect, Daniel Bickerstaff and I, we fellowshiped together years ago at Mount Sinai, and I remember once our pastor prophesying and saying that there are 3 future millionaires in our congregation, and he called out the name of Daniel Bickerstaff, another individual, and then he said Prester Pickett. So for the fact that I eventually landed on a path that crossed me into a venture that said, well, Daniel, you were named first, so you're probably going to become that millionaire first. And then to see the work that you have been doing and the Ewings and all of the community coming together. It's a gathering place. The fact that you all carry the history of celebrating Juneteenth before it was a national holiday. And that's where our roots are, before certain things became acknowledged by others. We want to go to the roots of when we were acknowledging things and eventually follow the course of how other people came to the attention of how important things like the African American Cultural Garden is. So many of us as a younger generation, when I was younger, would drive through that area and not know even that was a ground designated for African Americans. Eventually the pole went up and the flag on it, and then eventually the flowers. And then eventually I come to Cleveland State University to learn of the efforts and to be drawn into your Juneteenth celebrations, where I could use my theater background to reenact presentations by Abraham Lincoln and General Granger in terms of giving the announcement in Galveston, Texas, so that African descendants were announced to have been freed through the Emancipation Proclamation, and also the Civil War had ended, and yet they were still experiencing slavery. So the realization that we survived that, and that we have pride in our survival techniques, and now knowing that even when we just look at the gardens alone, there are various individuals who provided gardening skills to advance these United States of America. With George Washington Carver, if you go to Tuskegee again, you have that as an example, but there were others who prepared meals for the White House. And those individuals were learned not only in cooking, they also grew most of the things they were preparing for the presidents of the United States of America and their guests. So with that, when you talk about a garden, I love the idea of flowers, but I also, if I have some type of recommendation, would say some side area where we have some of the type of vegetables that we grew to sustain ourselves, to be able to create the culinary dishes that now are making a lot of people wealthy, and then eventually adding that component of celebration to our culture. While I was here at Cleveland State University, I've had a chance to teach in a number of the colleges here. In our College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, which is now our College of Arts and Sciences, I was able to instruct an anthropology course when Dr. Ronald Remnick left for a period for his sabbatical. And with that, I was able to pull some of his lessons and learn about what he taught as the elements of Black culture. And he taught that the elements of Black culture was inclusive of language, education, socialization, music, cuisine, history, artifacts, religion, recreation, and soul. So that ties into the opportunity to say what you all are doing at the Cultural Garden is employing many of those elements of Black culture all in one concentrated time. You're inviting people in to experience our cuisine, and then also the aesthetics. You have music, you have language with poetry, you have opportunities for people to adorn themselves in representing our African heritage. Those are artifacts, and you have artifacts there. And most definitely what we know as soul.
Yeah.
And that opportunity of soul is basically the presentation of ourselves for other people to see us from a distance and know who we are, even hear us from a distance and know that we are a people who have tried to sustain unity amongst our experience to advance with others here in these United States of America.
Thank you. It's so good to hear a scholar being able to articulate what we work so hard every day to promote. And we hope that this Sankofa series will help to inspire you. We hope that you got to know someone in our community maybe a little better, so that when you see him around, you know he wasn't always here. He took a path, and so as you're trying to find your path, hang in there, okay? This is the Sankofa series. Thank you so much for watching.